everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am your paranormal investigator, Justin.
And I'm Astral Travel Dan.
And I'm Great Value Darth Maul.
And we are here today for a very special, auspicious occasion. How you guys doing today? You guys good?
You know, I've actually been wanting to talk about this for a while. Like, I woke up at 9, and like normally I'm asleep at 9, but you know, I didn't happen. I mean, I happened, but that didn't happen.
Well, it's good that you woke up, unlike the kid in this movie.
Oh, insert air horns here because we're talking about Insidious.
I was just gonna keep fucking going on and on until you stopped me.
Well, no.
Well, I stopped you.
So, we're talking about Insidious by James Wan. Obviously, it was directed by him. It also stars Patrick Wilson as Josh Lambert. We have Rose Byrne as Renee Lambert. And we've also got Lynn Shay, who stars as Elise Rainier. And she goes on to be in many more movies despite her passing in the movie. Trust me, you'll find out more later. So we open this movie with the Lamberts, and they've got 3 kids, Dalton, Callie, and Foster. They move into a new house, and so apparently there's a little bit of a backstory the movie doesn't go into too much, but apparently their last house was haunted, or that's at least what they thought, and that may have been part of the reason for them to move. However, even though they're in kind of a new space, the wife, Renee, she starts noticing some haunted stuff pretty much right off the bat. Dan, can you go into that a little bit?
So as they're unpacking all their stuff, and at one point some of her books fall off of a bookshelf, spiritually get knocked off of the
Thank
bookshelf. You. And she, of course, blames one of her kids, who was like, "It wasn't me, Mom." But she still thinks he was. He was the one. So that happens. They have like a baby monitor that starts like getting a lot of static and jumbled messages and stuff in it. Things like doors will like open or close mysteriously. You know, the standard kind of spooky haunted house kind of stuff.
But it seems pretty innocent at first, right? Just a couple misplaced packages, that kind of thing. That is until their one kid, Dalton, winds up in a coma that even, the medical authorities can't really explain because they say his brain scans are fine, but they just don't know what's wrong with him. Boom, 3 months later. Yep, the movie just skips straight like that. So now the wife, Renee, she is seeing even more haunted shit. She's actually seeing things. And Nico, why don't you tell me about that?
So this is a part in the movie that I suspect if you saw it in theaters, you probably remembered this because it was a little off-putting. I know y'all watch SpongeBob. And I know y'all know that weird ukulele guy who sings in the high-pitched voice, the singing through the window, whatever. I'm not him. She eventually calls a priest, suffice to say, because there's no reason that you should be hearing weird, high-pitched voice ukulele guy just playing in your house for no reason. And also, there's like Tiny Tim from A Christmas Carol shows up, and he looks like he's in his Alms for the Poor wear, and it's kind of weird. It's just very, very strange. But I will give Renee, the wife here and mother, credit because she actually does something smart. It's something that we here at Don't Open That Door have mentioned many times, as a good option. She calls a fucking priest, but he doesn't do shit.
Right, and that was actually probably the quickest priesting I've ever seen. He's maybe in the house that we see for like 5 seconds. As soon as the husband shows up, he dips like he was having an affair with the wife. And
it's James Wan's next film, The Priesting.
Pretty much. Well, you know what's funny? He literally, I think the funniest line of the movie gets said right here. Josh walks into the house and he's like, "Hey, this is the start of a bad joke," right? A guy walks into a priest and his wife in the house. And I was like, that's actually probably one of the few bits of charisma you actually see from John in the movie. Because immediately after this, Josh, not John, Jesus Christ. He's not in this movie either. So, but no.
He might have been, though.
If the priest stayed,
he
right?
Could have been, yeah.
But I guess they just decide the priest isn't going to work out. And, Renee's talking to her mother-in-law, who is Josh's mom. And she's like, well, I know exactly what to do in this kind of situation. So they summon up Elise, who is essentially...
Not a Ghostbuster.
No, but... So she's like a spirit medium, I guess you could say.
A spedium.
She
if you
can
will.
interact with people, though. For those of you who have seen The Conjuring, she is nowhere near the level of Lorraine, right? Like Lorraine would beat her in like a ghost off.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. So
Totally.
at first, Josh doubts Elise. You know, he's like, "You guys just, I don't like the fact that you have an answer." So he, I don't know.
I want to stress that is not the way he reacted in the movie, but it would have been better if it was.
So that basically is what happens. And then from there, I don't know. He goes to his son's room and I guess he notices some pictures that they never saw before. And like, I guess Elise had a sketch artist, draw a picture of like the demon, the lipstick man, who kind of haunts around Dalton's comatose body. Dalton's still in the coma. They just have him in the house now. And so it's one of those things where at first he's like, I don't believe it. But then he sees that Dalton drew the same pictures and he's like, maybe they're onto something. Although if the people had investigated the house.
How did he just notice those pictures?
Yeah, 2 points there. First, I mean, those people were already in the house. So what if they just saw the pictures and drew a better version? That's not really convincing evidence. But secondly, and more to my point, Dalton literally has pictures where like the ghost is like haunting him directly. And then he's also like,
and he writes down what's
Yeah.
happening.
he's like, I dreamed last night that I watched myself sleep. And I was like, that might have been something to talk to your kid about. Anyways, Elise is like, yo, your son is in the further? Is that what the realm is called? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
He's in the further because he can astral project. But wait, turns out Josh could too. When he was a kid, he was actually haunted by the spirit of a nun. So Elise helped him out back then.
Hey, Justin, I have a question for you. Was that ever brought up as a plot point before this?
Very briefly. There was one thing where the wife says, we don't have any pictures of daddy when he was young. And that's because
That's the connection? Dude, I was fully fucking with you, expecting you to say, nope, never brought up. But that's worse. My God.
I mean, like, it's a little
Wow.
like they toss you a little bone here. And the mom looked like she knew something was up. So I give him credit for that. I give him a little pass there. But I mean, yeah, for the most part. So he reinvigorates himself and he basically astral projects to go save his son. And this probably is, for me, one of the better parts of the movie when he's actually in the further. Dan, why don't you go ahead and talk about what he's got going on over there?
Yeah, so he kind of goes in this the further plane, and at first it starts out as just complete darkness, and then he's kind of stumbles on his house, and when he goes in, everything's all foggy and dark and spooky and everything, and he's walking around the house. Which, first of all, Elise told him to hide from like spirits and like don't let them know that you're here and everything. And he's walking around the house like Dalton.
Yeah.
And then like he sees a spirit and he's like, hello? Like,
I'm looking for my son.
yeah, like you're doing the exact opposite of what she told you. But he sees a couple spirits kind of wandering around. He sees like an older couple on a couch. And then a little bit later on, I think like their daughter, I assume their daughter shoots them with a shotgun. And I assume that has something to do, that's probably how like those spirits like died in real life or something and started to like haunt people. I don't know. But yeah, he just sees kind of like a bunch of spirits, and then he finally finds his son and tries to take his son out of the further, in which time he encounters the lipstick face demon that has been haunting his son for real, and they run away from it.
True. And I guess pretty much after that point, they manage to make it back home. They kind of stop all the ghosts because a bunch of ghosts then try to get into the house. But pretty much Josh gets back into his body. Dalton gets back into his body. And the case is pretty much wrapped up. Unfortunately for Elise, she waits for herself to be alone with Josh before taking a picture of him, which reveals that Josh is possessed now by a spirit.
The one who was haunting him when he was
it didn't
younger.
look like the nun. I guess it was supposed to be the nun.
It was definitely the
was.
nun.
Well, I mean, like the nun before was dressing up like a nun, and this one had kind of like a funeral garb on. Like it was a black.
I don't think
It was like a black
I
funeral.
don't know
garb.
if it was ever a nun.
Yeah, it was a nun in the picture. It was a nun.
I'm not 100% on that.
All right.
but
Well, we'll get back
it's
on. We'll get back
implied.
on that. But yes, I thought it was implied it was the nun as well. So that happens, and then Josh literally just chokes out and kills Elise. By the way, no one heard Josh like yelling and screaming either. When he was like, why would you do that? Ah, like choking out Elise, and like Elise,
Yeah.
like, ah, I'm like, nope.
Well, nobody heard him when
oh.
he was screaming in the further either. So
I mean, at least she could have done was make a little more noise.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So she just dies, and then the movie ends with what's her face, Renee, basically finding the evidence that Josh is possessed, which is the photograph, and then Josh or someone taps her on the shoulder, and the movie ends. So it's a cliffhanger ending on top of all that.
and there was never a sequel made.
Not one we're going to discuss in this podcast. No, I mean, we'll definitely get to the second part at some point, but we'll stick our discussions strictly to our knowledge of this movie, or we'll at least try to. So let's go ahead and talk about, first off, before we get into anything else, how'd you guys feel about that ending piece?
Eh.
All right, Nico, that was descriptive. You didn't like that kind of ending?
Fuck no. That was like the kind of ending that I would write in my middle school creative writing class. And then he tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Honey, I'm right here." Like, come on, man.
All right, Dan, do you echo similar sentiments to that?
For the most part, I don't mind what happened in the ending. I just don't like the execution of it very much. Like I don't mind that he is haunted, and like I thought that was all right. That was kind of cool, but I thought the execution was bad, especially because like when he says like "I'm right here" or something, then she like screams or whatever, and the scream like echoes out to the credits. And I was like, okay, that's a little lame.
Well, it's funny because that actually, for me, I'm glad you mentioned the execution, because I think that deals with a overall bigger issue that the film has with, I'm going to use the words subtlety and nuance, but we'll actually get more to that in the next section, believe it or not. So let's get into the visuals. So Nico, what did you think about the visuals there, sir?
Fucking bleak, man. Like, I don't know if the people in the visuals department were just putting the reels of film through After Effects and just like, hey, let's take away all the saturation and make everything look really, really gray.
I was going to say, it looks like they ran it through a sepia filter. Just like,
At some points, yeah, it just didn't work for me. And like, I get that horror is supposed to have, you know, kind of like an oppressive tone overall and be something that at times you're not necessarily comfortable with, but honestly, it was just kind of ugly. The visuals were cool with like the character design, and I will give credit for that. Like, you know, seeing Great Value Darth Maul in there was kind of cool, how he was moving around and stuff, and just like the different like parts of the further were kind of neat. How like his lair was almost like a scene out of Phantom of the Opera, and the rest of it was like straight out of The Mist.
yeah, I was going to say, first off, for the audience, because they can't see it, the lipstick demon is the one Nico refers to as Great Value Darth Maul. Due to his face, you can look it up. It looks kind of similar-ish.
It's a pretty accurate description. Great Value Darth Maul.
But no, in terms of the visuals, I agree with you in terms of the bleakness. I mean, I'm reminded of, everyone hold your breath, Twilight, because that is what
Actually,
what that movie looked like. Like everything was just washed out.
Holy shit, you're right.
The first one, they had the sense to fix that later on. But I mean, yes, like it really did look completely washed out, which I think was a staple for a bunch of horror movies at some point in time. But as some of our supporters can tell you about colors, it does make a big difference to the movie and to the design. And it's just, I thought it was kind of lacking
in this.
lacking for sure.
Yeah.
Dan, any comments about visuals before we go into audio?
No, I mean, you pretty much said the point already.
All right, well, that's what I say. Points. So, Dan, I'm pointing at you now. How'd you like those shrill violins?
Well, I thought that was actually interesting. I thought they were quite effective. I didn't particularly like them because that's not really my style of like music and whatever, but I thought they were pretty effective at getting you on edge. And, you know, a lot of horror movies really like do the kind of shrill violins. But these, I feel like, were a little bit different. They're like a step above. They were like, took that to another level, in my opinion.
Like Threnody to Hiroshima levels?
Yeah, kind of.
All right. So I will say as well, quickly while we're talking about the musical score, I do got to give a quick shout out to my personal friend, not playing, a composer I really like. He goes by Ludovico Einaudi, and one of his songs, Nuvoli Bianche, was on this. And yeah, I like that song quite a bit. I forget exactly when it played, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, I know this song. But yeah, so I guess what it is as well. Also, in terms of the audio, I think they had the, what is it, Walking Through the Tulips or Dancing Through the Tulips. What's that song called?
Something tulips, something creepy pedophile man.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, like it was, I don't know. It was one of those songs where it was like, I think it was supposed to be like a juxtaposition.
You're shitting me. This guy's name is actually Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's called Tiptoe Through the Tulips with Me. And that's going to be in my nightmares.
So yeah. Now, in terms of, I guess, this movie. So this was James Wan's kind of first out and out supernatural horror movie, I believe. At least his first like big feature one. Previous to this, he directed Saw, which was immensely popular. Now, I guess when we take a look and just kind of see this movie, can we see any kind of like, I don't know, any kind of James Wan isms, for lack of a better word, things that are kind of him building up his own style in the movie? Can we see anything like that at all?
Not necessarily to prior movies anyways, but at least on like the later Conjurings
Right.
and things like that. Sort of the build-ups of the haunted houses with the, spooky little things that kind of build up over time. These sort of exorcism style scenes, like the interview with the ghosts, I guess, is interview with the spirits, I guess.
The fucking like Geek Squad editions.
Yeah.
True.
I thought that was pretty funny too. The way that I was thinking about this in terms of like relating to his directorial sort of like process is this is y'all know I love the Conjuring and the Conjuring 2, but like this is like Babby's first The Conjuring. It's got a ton of the same plot beats. It's got a ton of the same even like set pieces, even though they're in different houses, like just the way there's like framing of the shots and stuff. And it was, as I was watching this, I was really excited because based off of those two movies, Conjuring 1 and 2, I really do love those films. And so I was excited to look at a previous work to see if it would sort of like reflect any of the good parts that I liked. But honestly, it just felt really tired.
Okay, but I guess we could say that this kind of helped him lay the groundwork for a lot of his techniques he
absolutely.
would go on to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Like The Conjuring
Yeah.
was the phoenix that rose out of the ashes that was Insidious.
Okay. Now, speaking of,
In my opinion.
I mean, I share the opinion. So let me ask you this now. In your opinion, does this movie successfully build tension? So I think that's one thing that sometimes when we talk about things being scary or horror, for me personally, one thing I kind of think of is, it's like in the gym, right? To build muscle, it's time over tension. So you have to have your muscles as tensed as possible for like and engaged for a long time. And I almost feel like for me, horror can be similar at times where I want to feel that dread. I want to feel the tension rising and building and just get to a point where I can't hold back anymore. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And
yeah, no, I totally know what you mean.
and so like for me personally in this movie, I felt that there was a real lack of that. Probably the only, I guess, area or part where any kind of tension for me really built was when Josh went into the further, and he saw all the different ghosts. And then for me, that was like, and I say it again, for me, it was visually the best part. It was also just kind of thematically for me the best part. And I thought that was a little cool portion of the movie. But outside of that, I just didn't feel like there was any real tension being built. And those shrill violins and things of that nature, I felt like they were just contributing to a bunch of jump scares, to be honest with you. I mean, literally 30 seconds into the movie, jump scare, intro screen.
Yeah.
Like at the very end of the movie, jump scare, outro screen. Like literally like I want to say like almost all of the scares in this movie are bad guy pops out, bring, like
Right.
shrill violin,
and nothing happens. Like they pop out, but never any like consequence or anything. Like there was one time when Josh was walking through, I can't remember if this was in the Nether or if this is one of the ones that happened in real life, but he enters into a room or a house, and then suddenly like fucking Bride of Frankenstein walks out from, you know, behind him on his right, and then it's like, there's the violin, but nothing comes of it.
Mm-hmm.
She just keeps walking.
Yeah. And well, first off, Dan, let me get your take on that right fast. Do you have anything else to say, or do you agree with what we've said so far?
No, I mean, I agree. There are a lot of jump scares. I'm also thinking of the one when the Geek Squad detective is cycling through his different colored filter
Yeah,
things.
you're talking about Elise's 2 tech support guys, right? The ones who check the house to make sure that there's any paranormal activity.
Yeah.
Yes, them.
Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, when he's cycling through some like what were those like
The little colored lenses.
We're little kids.
Like kaleidoscope things almost.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they were.
And he cycles through one and like, there's, the first 2 or 3, there's nothing there, but you hear like the building and the music, and then cycles to the next one, and then whoop, there's like 2 spirits, and then that's it. So yeah, there are a lot of jump scares, and you're right, Nico, I didn't really think about it, but you're right. They don't really amount to anything. Like I feel like 1 or 2 jump scares are fine if they like build to something, but this one I feel like there's nothing that builds to, really.
I feel like that can be said about like the whole movie almost, and I'm just gonna apologize now that I now realize I'm going to keep comparing this to The Conjuring.
But let's try not to do it
Like-
too much, because again, we can't judge someone against their future.
Well,
work.
no, and I'm not going to. I'm just saying like what I liked about that versus like the things that I liked about Conjuring were lacking in Insidious. And my point here is that, like Dan was saying, there's a whole lot of jump scares and set pieces that don't really amount to much. And I feel like that is kind of the way the tension goes in the movie. At least that was my sort of perspective on things. Like even when they're in the house, it doesn't really feel like they're ever in danger. Like, of course, Dalton is off in, fucking
Further.
space. Yeah, but further. But like everyone else, there's no real presence that seems like it's harming anything. Whereas in other haunting movies like this, there at least seems to be some sort of tangible violence that is occurring, juxtaposed to the regular life, whereas this is just like people getting sad over a kid who's really sleepy.
I mean, one thing I will say, well, first off, just to clarify for the audience, that he isn't actually in a coma. He is in a coma, although it's not really a coma. It's just his spirit is in the further. But I guess second point to that, and I'm glad you talked about it, the generalized lack of danger. I mean, most of these ghosts and spirits were either benign. Like, I mean, there was like a little kid spirit that Nico referred to as Tiny Tim earlier. He just wanted to play hide and go seek. He was even vibing out. He was dancing to a song.
Dead ass.
Like
yeah.
earlier, like he was dancing, and then I guess, yes, it can be kind of freaky to like see a spirit or something, but most of these spirits weren't trying to hurt them at all. They're trying to freak them out maybe, but most of these spirits weren't trying to hurt them at all. And I know Elise later goes on to say that, they're actually drawn to Dalton because he's an empty vessel, XYZ. Okay, that makes some sense. But I just feel like there was a true lack of, I guess, just odds, tension for a large part of the movie. Now, I guess, Dan, and I want to pose this question to you now. What do you think about Elise, specifically her ability? Because, I mean, she can't astral project.
Right.
Her power seems to be that she can speak with spirits, maybe?
I think so, yeah. She seems like a medium or something. She was interesting, and I feel like she was portrayed differently than a lot of like mediums and things like that a little bit. And even like during the, I guess you could call it a seance, when they were trying to like communicate with Dalton.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting and a little creepy, I guess, just because she put on like a gas mask thing.
Yeah, it was like almost like what a scuba diver or no, a deep sea diver would wear.
Yeah. And it was attached via tube to one of her assistants' like headphones. So I guess he could hear like what she was saying, because she even said like, I'm going to speak really quietly. But I just feel like her powers were different. They weren't quite normal medium powers. And they never really go into like how she got them or what relationship she has with them. Or, I mean, not that we have to have our whole backstory, but.
Oh, you get it. Go ahead and watch Insidious, The Last Key, or whichever one it is that deals with her childhood. Yep, we got that.
We are only judging.
Hey, I know. I'm just saying, for anyone who wants to know, you can check that out.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like her powers and everything were a little odd.
Okay, that's fair. I will say I'm much more used to having someone be more powerful, or at least being able to
Definitely.
instill more calmness and goodwill. So I will say this. First off, the only time Sunshine is ever really in the movie is when Elise shows up to the house for the first time. They actually let a little bit of color in to the shots, and she's smiling and laughing. Well, let me tell you what, Elise is like the most traumatized person in this whole movie, because whenever she talks about a ghost or a spirit, she starts talking kind of quieter, and then she starts like almost crying and tearing up. Oh, that's the lipstick man, and he'll come for Dalton. And then like, what about me when I was a child? Oh, that was the nun. She'll come for you too. I'm like, damn, can you like, you've been doing this for like 1,000 years. Can you, I don't know, like be more resilient, please? Like, I don't know. You're right. It was different. And I don't mean to shit all over her portrayal, because for the record, she actually is probably one of the most
Well acted characters.
well, not even that, but just like her character does things which 99% of the cast can't say. The two,
She yells a demon out.
yeah. Yo, can we talk about that real quick? So, and I guess we're just gonna jump straight into some of our favorite scenes here. But I mean, like, I really enjoyed when Josh is in the further and he's, fighting a ghost. Elise can't see what's going on. She's just like, yo, Josh, you're stronger than he is. And then Josh hits the ghost with like a Fuzro Da and sends him flying. I didn't quite know what was going on there, but that was kind of cool.
The thing I loved about that scene in particular is that Josh very clearly didn't give a fuck about his kid Dalton, because literally the second before that, Dalton goes, so they get inside the house, and Dalton goes, "Come on, Daddy, we gotta get back. He's right after us." And so Dalton wisely runs back towards, his family, and then Josh is just like, "Oh, I now have a side quest. I'm gonna go in this hallway, not towards my child." Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
I feel like there was something there that wasn't well described, because it seems like at the very beginning of that part, it seems like he's super tired and like can't continue on, because he's like,
Yeah, and we can't tell why.
I think it's because he has an astral projected.
Oh, well, that's not made clear.
Yeah, because then like 2 seconds later, he seems fine when he's trying to talk to the old woman nun spirit. But I don't know.
I mean, I can see that. Dan, did you have any scenes you really enjoyed? Maybe anything funny?
So my favorite scene, actually, my two favorite scenes, and I think I'll probably bring this up again a little bit later, is when they call the priest. And it was funny for like not really the right reasons, but they call the priest, and as we said before, the priest shows up for like 10 seconds and then dips. But as soon as I saw there's a priest, I was like, yes, somebody made the right decision to call the priest.
I got excited.
Like I actually like out loud
excited.
was like, yes, thank you. And then literally like right after the priest leaves, the mom is like tells her story, and she's like, yep, this place is definitely haunted. And I was just like, yo, call the priest back. Get the priest back here. He left 5 minutes ago. Tell him to turn around. But I thought that was kind of funny, even though it wasn't really supposed to be. There was comedic relief in the film with the two like Geek Squad assistants.
Yeah, there was one with the flashlights, right? Where one took out a flashlight and the other one took out like a maximum size flashlight.
Yeah, and it was comedic, but I feel like it didn't really fit. Like, because it destroyed the tension, I think, like you were talking about before. And I think a little bit, like one or two small little jokes on there would have been okay. But I feel like they were only comedic relief and they were only there to destroy the tension.
True.
And I feel like they just did it too much. If they turned that down a little bit, I would have been fine with it.
Nico, do you concur with that sentiment?
I mean, yeah, I do. They were just kind of fluff, really.
All right. So follow up.
They didn't.
Follow up to that. Do you think? Well, first off, what favorite scene do you have? Is there any kind of scene that jumps out to you?
Actually, yes. The only actually kind of scary part in this movie, I think, is when Josh goes to the further for the first time and he goes inside the house and he sees these previous ghosts who were haunting it or whatever. And there's a scene where it shows him getting real up close to them and like making sure that they're like not breathing or blinking. And then one of them blinks, which I thought was cool. But the scene changes, and then we go back to there's a young woman with a shotgun, and the camera pans over to her face, and it's just maniacally insane. And I thought that just the jarring sort of emotion there was actually kind of scary.
All right, cool. And I feel like I also got to give a quick shout out to the scene where Josh meets the lipstick demon, and the lipstick demon is like sharpening his claws and listening to his favorite tunes. Like that scene for me was perhaps the only scene that made me feel anything. But again, it was kind of over before I could really get into it because it just ended too quickly.
I have a question for you guys. So when I was watching this with my roommate, we both definitely thought that Josh was cheating on Renee at first. Did either of you think that?
No.
Okay, because like when he is given these like bullshit excuses of like, oh no, I just gotta come home late. I got all these tests and stuff and blah blah. When it turns out that he's just being kind of just a shitty partner. But I thought that the building was making it up to be that there would be this sort of like B side plot where he would have to deal with his inner demons as he was dealing with the literal demons. And I thought that could have been really cool, but fuck me, I guess.
No, I think what it was he was in a way dealing with his own inner demons because I think he was purposely staying late at the school because he was afraid.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's what I really think it was.
And I think then later on in the movie, near the end, not near the end, but when we learned that he used to astral project as a kid, I assume that's why it affected him like that when he was like kind of afraid and staying at school late and everything. Subconsciously, he was more afraid because he had experienced that already, even though he didn't remember it.
And that would have been better if we could have like put that together ourselves, but we don't get that information until after the fact.
I mean, true, but I actually didn't dislike that as much as you. I think I'm always one for the movies, having a little bit of subtlety to them. And after having said that, what I dislike about this movie, for me, is its lack of subtlety. As I get older, I like my movies to make me dig deeper into them. And and I know we call this movie out literally almost every podcast, but not every movie is going to be to the level of Midsummer or something else like that, a deep dive, The Wailing, something like that. But it doesn't have to be. But at the same time, I felt like this movie literally trumpeted when something scary happened. Like there was
violent.
Yeah. When like Renee finds a bloody handprint on Dalton's bed, the movie's like, "Dink," and it shows you. And it's not even a jump scare. It's just look, guys, look! It's a bloody handprint, and I'm like,
Theory on that though.
Theory:
is it a bloody handprint? Because
it's not a footprint.
The demon
has claws for hands.
Well, it's a lipstick face demon, and there's like red markings all over it. So I'm wondering if that's actual blood or if that was just its handprint to show you how close it's getting to Dalton.
Okay. I mean,
because maybe it's not actual blood.
Perhaps you're right. Perhaps it's not actual blood. That's a good point. Didn't think about that.
But fact of remains, I agree with what you're saying, though.
Yeah, and I don't know. For me, I would have, for example, I think it's scarier sometimes when there's like ghosts and stuff or like freaky stuff happening in the background, but the movie doesn't tell you. But if you see it, It's like, oh shit, did you see that?
Right.
And like, again, not every time. Obviously, you have to show some things, but I thought it was too much of one, not enough of the other. Also, the one trope that I definitely can think of in this movie is the whole like no one listens to the person who sees the ghosts or sees the demons. Except Josh sees his fair fucking share of creepy shit going on and still chooses to like deny it. Which I was like, all right, bro, I could see it if maybe they played it that nothing ever happened when Josh was in the house. But bruh, Josh, the door got flung open and no one was there, dude. Your alarm system kept going off. You literally witnessed like 3 or 4 sets of supernatural activity and you were just like, nah, I'm not going to accept this. I'm like, all right. If that's how you wanted to play it, then you should have had him exposed to less, just in my opinion. Was there anything else that either of you guys didn't like?
I didn't, like I said before, I didn't really like the comedic relief of those two characters. If they made 1 or 2 little jokes, fine, but I think that was too much. I actually really agree with the statement you said of too little of one thing and too much of another. I feel like that adequately sums up the movie for me, where there was too little tension. You know, a lot of movies, you know, it's all about tension, but then adding a little bit of release, and then tension again, and then a little more release, and tension, and like over time building that up in that kind of system. I feel like there was too much release and not enough tension.
Right.
Yeah.
And just throughout a lot of the movie, there was too much of this, but not quite enough of this. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
Okay. And I guess kind of, let me ask you guys this as well, and we can kind of decide this as a group. So let's say you are married, you have, I don't know, about 3, but you have at least 1 kid who's, I guess, possessed and in the further. And Elise is like, yo, you got to astral project. What would you do?
Astral project, the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, would you do what he did? Just pull a heavy rain? Sean, like...
I was just gonna say that. Like, Dan, I don't know if you've seen this video, and dear listeners, please look this up. There is a glitch in the video game Heavy Rain where the main character just yells out his son's name at the most inopportune times and it's just absolute fucking comedy. Like, he'll be in a department store and just be, Sean! It's great. It's absolutely great. But what did you say?
I'm saying, what would you do different? I guess I should say, not what would you do, but what would you do different from anything that any of the characters did? For me,
I mean, I would have called the priest back first.
Okay, very truth. I would have, from Josh's standpoint, I would have for sure not gone down that hallway. I would have just like gone back to my family.
Yeah.
Secondly, you know, I might have like tried to figure out more about my past before, like, hey, do you remember, like, I don't know. I feel like you were haunted by this demon.
The pacing was weird.
But if you don't remember it, you can't just be like, oh, let me remember this.
Yeah.
Let me talk to people to remember this if you don't remember it. Like, he thought his life was normal.
I guess rather, I should say, when they told him, hey, you used to astral project, hey, you were haunted by this demon, my second question would have been, did you get rid of the demon? Is it still after me? Like,
right, true, good point.
Yeah, real talk though. They never established
because
that.
literally, like, they were just like, you were literally, your life was in terrible danger. So what did you do? We just stopped taking pictures of you and hoped you'd forget. Sick.
Yeah,
but like,
I feel like this whole movie is the mom's fault because
you think so?
Because she didn't tell her kid. Which I understand that part, but then
you mean Josh's mom?
Yeah, Josh's mom. Yeah, sorry, not the main character's mom. No, sorry, Josh's mom, Lorraine. She didn't tell him, which, okay, I get that. I can understand that. But then the wife thought, Renee thought the house was haunted. So they moved houses right after they bought one house.
Which, like, good on them. Right. They actually did the fucking thing. Yes, I was so impressed.
That was the right choice. But if I was Lorraine, the mom, Josh's mom, I would have been like, wait, why did you move houses? Oh, you think it's haunted? Well, let me tell you about your past.
True.
Like, it should never have gotten to the point. She was there when the priest was there. So she knew that Renee was calling the priest. At that point, I also would have been like, hey, you probably shouldn't call a priest because I think I know what's going on. there were so many signs that she should have known that, hey, this is happening again. And there's no solution aside from calling Elise or like astral projecting or doing all this supernatural stuff.
So I guess, let me ask you guys this now. And Nico, I'm assuming you agree with what Dan said. I thought that was pretty eloquent.
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
So I really did. So time to take a look at the critical review. So this movie is sitting on Rotten Tomatoes at a 66% from the critics and a 62% from the audience aggregator. I know. So what do you guys think? You think the critics have it right? Think the audience has it right? Would you go higher? Would you go lower?
Oh, well, point me to a fucking limbo competition because I'm feeling lower, baby.
Oh,
Oh yeah? What would you stick this movie at?
I want to give this movie credit for doing like the bare bones basics of a Hollywood movie, right? Like it looks crisp. It has passable acting for the most part. Like it is intelligently shot, but I'm so disappointed, man. Like I'm thinking mid to low 40s.
Oof. Click, click, bow. Dan.
I feel like I'd put it at like a 55.
Oh my God.
As much shit as I talked about it, I thought it was okay. It obviously I didn't enjoy it too much. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was okay.
I am in between. So I would put this at a 55.
Oh,
No, I mean, I could see it going anywhere from a 50 to a 55. I choose to give it a 55 here. I don't know what about this movie made people like it so much that it spawned so many sequels. I don't know what about this movie made me watch it the first 3 times. I don't know. Like, I have never liked this movie. I literally find this to be a painfully generic, with the exception of certain applications in the further, but it's.
And yet
who
you rate
doesn't
it
know the
higher
story?
than me.
I know, and I'll explain why. Because I think, for the record, it doesn't make any massive mistakes
It doesn't.
that for me would make me want to give something that low of a score. I don't know, man. Like, it's just, for me, I can't even, for me, if I'm bored and I want to watch a horror movie, there's a bunch of other horror movies
yes.
that I would rather watch. And to be honest, I now remember why I've seen this movie so many times. It's because all my friends come over like, oh, bro, I never saw Insidious, but I heard it was dope. And then I'm like, all right, let's watch it. And then I'm like, that's right, it's not that good, is it? And they're like, nah. I'm like, all right. So I don't know. Like, for me, this just ain't it, fam. Like, I gotta give it what I gave it. So here's a question for the pod. Would we recommend this to a friend? I say no, for the record.
I say no.
I say no. It's not.
Oh my God, damn.
It's. I don't recommend to not watch it, but like you said, like. I don't know. If somebody's like, hey, what's a good horror movie we should watch? This one wouldn't come to mind.
Right.
Like, if you want to see this done right, go watch The fucking Conjuring. It's so much better.
Yeah.
And also, when you're done watching The Conjuring, listen to our review. But
Hey.
but yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. I sincerely, and I hope you guys agree with me here when I say, for me, I would call this movie painfully average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me personally, like I said, I don't know what it did to get what it got, but shout outs to James Wan. For the record, he was incredibly young for a director when he did Saw.
How old
Like,
was
the dude's only in his like early 40s now.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So-
wow.
That was what?
Yeah, he was like in his like
2004, I think then.
yeah, he was like in his early 20s to mid 20s when he was
Holy
doing like
shit.
Saw. So like
Guys, what the fuck are we doing with our lives?
talking about what he's done. So I mean, in in terms of his kind of, I guess, abilities, like, he clearly has it, because Saw is fucking dope. The first one is dope as shit. The rest, I mean, kind of got sequelitis as they went on, but the first couple ones are dope. I love Saw 1 and 2. Also, he directed a movie called, and he didn't like it a lot, but he directed a movie called Dead Silence, which Beware the Stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls, for anyone who's seen that movie. I mean, I like that movie. I liked it more than this. And he was like, that movie wasn't very creatively good. And I was like, I don't know. So I do not want to knock, as much shit as I talk, I don't want to knock James Wan, because I do think he is a director he's still young for a director, to be honest with you.
I like him as a director. I just don't like this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as hot on him as a director as you are, but I think he has it within him to put out quality work.
Definitely
and
agreed.
I don't know. For me, this Jason just is not it. Does anyone have any other closing points they want to kind of get off their chest before we bring this one to a cease?
Not me.
Listen to your kids.
Truth. So yeah, I mean, that's been it from us here at Don't Open That Door. This one, unfortunately, is going to get a little bit of a pass from the crew tonight. But what you shouldn't pass on is following us on social media. That's right. You can go ahead and check us out at DOTD Horror on Instagram and Twitter. And you can always follow us on Facebook. That's Don't Open That Door. So yeah, I mean, that's it from us here at Don't Open That Door. We want everyone to keep yourself safe. Make sure everything is good with you. And as always, ladies and gents, don't open that door. Have a great night.